questions from our community. Some questions have been submitted earlier this week, but anybody who is here is also welcome to provide questions that we can answer in this panel. We are going to start off today with introductions. So if you all would please introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, and your role with the movement, maybe also your year and major.
Tashana Fluellen. I am a senior in textile engineering. I go by she, her, hers pronouns, and I am the current president of the movement.
I am Juniper Nay. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm also a senior in communication media and women and gender studies, and I am the vice president of the movement.
I'm Yamini. I go by she, her, hers. I'm a junior majoring in human biology, and I'm the director of communications.
Hey all, I'm Charlotte. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a third year majoring in graphic communications with a minor in social work, and I am the director of events for the movement this year.
My name is Priyanka. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a senior majoring in economics, and I'm the director of outreach for the movement this year.
Great. So for each of you, what's your background and how did you become a peer educator? And what do you do in your current role as a peer educator?
So I first joined the movement my freshman year. I've been in it for almost 4 years now. I joined the fall of my freshman year. And a lot of stuff that they tell you when you first get to state is join a club that deals with your major and join a club for something that you love to do. So the movement was just a club that I joined for something that I love to do, educating people on interpersonal violence, because I experienced that in my life and I know other people around me have as well. So it was important to me to participate in a group such as the movement. And what I do as a peer educator, right now as the president, I am in charge of organizing the workshops that we do with the movement. Last semester we had the movement challenge where we had different organizations complete 3 workshops in order to complete the movement challenge. And this semester we're moving into requesting workshops for the spring semester also.
I joined the movement after transferring to NC State. So I transferred in fall 2018 and then found the movement through the involvement fair actually on campus. And then I've always knew that, just like Tashana mentioned, I had a love for IPV prevention and awareness. And then I wanted to extend that also with personal relations, such as being a woman of color, and then defying those stigmas. And then as vice president, I also assist with training new members and then whatever is needed from me on the leadership team. Okay.
So when I came as a freshman, I was in the WISE Village, which is the Women of Science and Engineering. And so we are required to attend events every semester. And one of the events I saw on the calendar was Consent 101, which is one of the workshops that the movement facilitates. And I didn't know anything about the movement when I came, like I knew they would facilitate workshops like consent, like bystander behavior, but I didn't know what the organization was about. So I attended the workshop and I really loved the conversations we were having. And one of the facilitators was nice enough to tell me how to apply and become a peer educator. And so that's how I joined the movement, I believe my sophomore year. So it's been roughly a year and a half since I joined the movement. And as a director of communications, I handle social media accounts and basically execute any promotion or communication strategies. And I also assist whenever I'm with anyone on the leadership team as well.
Yeah, so I also joined my freshman year, the very first semester. I'm originally from Tennessee, so I'm an out-of-state student. And I, at the time, was really searching for clubs that fell into my interests that would introduce me to people with the same interests. So the movement peer educators was a great fit for me. I've always been passionate about social justice. And I think I was really excited to learn more about IPV and prevention and education. So I kind of fell in love with it, put a lot of time into it, and I'm really happy to be here still. This year, as the director of events, I, of course, have been completely virtually planning, but have been planning events and kind of converting what would usually be our tabling events to a virtual format, which has been interesting, but I think so far has been good. But all kinds of events, ranging from social justice and equity to just like consent and all sorts of stuff. Also facilitating workshops like all of the facilitators in our group.
So, like Tashana, I also joined the movement my fall of my first year, and I was just really interested in feminism and stuff coming out of high school. So I was looking at the Women's Center, and this seemed like a really cool way to get involved. And I'm so glad I did because I think I've learned and grown like exponentially since first joining the movement. And I think it's also just such a great community of people that, like Charlotte said, all share the same interests and that you can really feel supported in and safe in. So that's been really cool. And I am the director of outreach. So a lot of what I do is promoting the movement and this year the movement challenge to other organizations so that they can get signed up for our workshops and learn more about us. And then also reaching out to other collaborating organizations so we can learn and grow as an organization and really create those relationships.
Great, thank you all for sharing. So the focus of today, our full day of workshops, is on stalking awareness for January Stalking Awareness Month. So this question is open to anybody who wishes to jump in. But what would you do if you are during a workshop or just in your everyday life as a peer educator, if a peer tells you that they're being stalked? What would you tell them? How would you respond?
I would definitely see the options of seeking help. So whether it's notifying a trusted adult or contacting the helpline, or even notifying authorities, depending on the extent, I guess. And then also looking at the different options of, okay, do you have screenshots and text messages, voicemails, things that we could gather up as evidence as well, just in case if we do take it to that legal step.
Yeah, I definitely want to go off of that. I think, like Juniper said, there's a number of resources that are available that we could recommend, but it definitely depends because stalking situations can range so much. So talking to the survivor and um, having them explain what they're going through and what resources they may be interested in would be definitely a great first step.
Kind of also like hopping off of Charlotte, asking them, what they want to do, supporting them at that time. You can tell them, many resources, but at the end of the day, it's their decision, if they want to go ahead and, use these resources. So I would first, they came to you because they obviously trust you with this information. So I would listen to them, just be there for them as much as you can.
That segues perfectly into our next question. What are things that you could do as a friend to make a survivor of stalking feel more safe and more comfortable on campus or off campus?
Okay, like connecting them to different resources on campus, asking them what they need from you as a friend, because every person's idea of the different type of support that they need may be different. You can't just kind of have a cookie cutter idea for support, but being there, being able to listen to what they have to say and actually believe and help them along with their process.
I think also going off of that, I think everyone kind of touched on this, but really asking them if there's anything you can do, whether that's walking with them or accompanying them somewhere or helping them get in touch with resources that they want, really just kind of being that peer support for them.
So one question that came in was, being a victim of stalking has caused my friend to act differently, even though they are no longer actively being stalked. How can I help them as a friend feel more like themselves again?
Definitely adding on to what Priyanka has mentioned before. So asking in the question, what can I do to help? And then emphasizing on actively listening and listening with intent. Sometimes talking it out in instances such as this could help a lot, especially when it comes to the emotional stress and trauma that's often suppressed within survivors. So I think that could also be a good segue into leading in to healing.
I'm just going to jump in and also add that the NC State Counseling Center, I think, is also a really great resource. If there's a survivor trying to sort of navigate that trauma and heal, it's free and it's accessible to all students. So I think that's a really great place to start if your friend does want to get help.
So a lot of what we've talked about today is around how stalking behaviors are often normalized or even romanticized in TV or media or in everyday life. So what advice would you give to students listening to this panel or watching this video of how would you know if you're being stalked? Or how would you support a friend if they're being stalked, but they don't recognize the behaviors as stalking?
One way to identify if you're being stalked, even if it is kind of seen as like this cutesy thing, is repeated unwanted actions, whether that be someone showing up, someone texting you, like double, triple texting, all of that. Repeated unwanted actions is what you could identify as stalking. And if your friend doesn't necessarily see it as stalking, you can like go through a conversation with them, be like, well, did they do this? Did you want them to do that? Did you express that you wanted them to do that? Or did they just do that as something that they thought was cute and nice to do?
Yeah, kind of like going off of that, like stalking with the internet is like easier than ever. So like cyber stalking is like definitely big. So if you're getting like repetitive phone calls, repeated requests from like the same number or block number, that's a big, red flag. Or like, using technology to keep tabs on someone, repeated like unwanted contact through like messages, emails. Those are all red flags. And sometimes like maybe explaining to a friend like just a definition of what stalking is, just like it's a pattern of unwanted behaviors that involves monitoring, harassing, or repeatedly contacting a person. Sometimes they may only associate like extreme behaviors with stalking, but sometimes you might also like want to explain like how following or showing up as like implicit or explicit threats. Those could all be like stalking as well, stalking behaviors. That's one way as well.
At what point, so if you are, speaking to this friend and they don't necessarily recognize it as stalking, or if they do, at what point would you recommend that your friends seek help? And how would you help them feel comfortable reaching out and connecting with resources?
I think there's never anything such as too soon. I think the minute they start to feel like something is wrong or something is unsafe, I think there's a lot of really wonderful resources, like Juniper mentioned, like the Women's Center that has a lot of really great advocates and a lot of resources that you could definitely connect them to or walk with them and help them get in touch with someone who can help them. And I think kind of going off of the last question, I think it can be a really hard situation when you kind of see your friend maybe in this dynamic that is unhealthy, but they're not seeing that it's stalking. And I think it can be really difficult to kind of hold those conversations, and definitely doing it in a way that's not pushy or like antagonizing them or making them feel like they have to be doing something. Can definitely, I think, help lead your friend towards more like, hey, I care about you, and maybe talking to someone here really might benefit you.
I think Priyanka put it really well. I definitely would say it's it's a gentle topic to be discussing with someone who like doesn't understand maybe what's happening, and but it can be really important to bring up if it's something that is presenting danger to them. So finding a way to discuss it in a way where you're opening it up to them and presenting it as, I care about you, um, if you need anything, I'm here. And just really making sure they understand that you're a resource for them as well.
Sorry, just to jump back in, I thought of one more thing as you were talking, Charlotte. I think also something that I've seen happen is with the romanticization of stalking is kind of like gaslighting, to where people will think, oh, but it's not that big of a deal yet. Like I don't really need to like see it as dangerous or unhealthy, even if that's definitely what it is. So I think just like reiterating that even if it's something that you feel like is really minor, there's definitely like no way it would hurt to reach out to a resource.
That's actually a great point when you talk about romanticizing. Like, most people like want to feel like special and so like worthy of, some romantic attention. And so they want to believe in that love of first sight, like, true love. And so whenever they see any of these like gestures, they're like, oh, it's so romantic. And I think it's just always stalking isn't, it's always important to remember that stalking isn't romantic. It's a serious crime and can have like a serious like emotional effect on like victims.
Yeah, those are all really good points. For those who are listening and not able to see the chat, I'll just reiterate that the Counseling Center as a resource you can contact by calling 919-515-2423. You can also visit counseling.dasa.ncsu.edu. And you can connect with the Women's Center by calling our helpline at 919-515-4444 or emailing ncsuadvocate@ncsu.edu. And I want to follow up actually, Priyanka, on something that you said. So in a lot of the movement trainings, you all talk about healthy relationships and being able to recognize red flags or unhealthy relationships. You mentioned a term called gaslighting. Can anybody explain to our participants here what that is and how you might identify it? And I guess one thing too to say about gaslighting is that, and with stalking behaviors, that there's often things that on the surface might not seem to be severe, or we might say, oh, that's harmless, but it's the cumulative effect of these behaviors that can be really, really damaging to somebody's mental and emotional well-being. So I want to turn it back to talking about peer education. So for each of you here today, what is your favorite part of being a peer educator? And how has being a peer educator, well, has it, or how has it changed your academic or your career trajectory?
So my favorite part about being a peer educator is getting to listen to the stories of people saying like how we actually helped them, how it actually made a difference, or just with people who have friends or family where they've experienced a form of IPV and they say that they now know how to support them better. Interacting with people at events is another one of my favorite parts. We hold more events in the spring usually, and just getting to interact with different people. And it's, some people still don't know about the movement, so I will say it's like a nice aspect when you hear someone say like, oh, I didn't know about this before and now I do, like I want to go to all these events, or like how do I sign up for knowing about the new events. I always like hearing that also. It's, well, my major's in textile engineering, so it hasn't really changed my career trajectory. But as far as my academic trajectory, while I'm in college, it has like opened up a lot of different perspectives to have in within that space while I'm in college.
For me, it's definitely the family dynamic and aspect that I have with the movement and just with each other, having that support with many like inspiring and inspirational individuals in one room, and then us going out there and then being just amazing individuals when it comes to IPV prevention and awareness. And then for the influence with my academic career, definitely had an influence with picking my minor. Originally, I minored in graphic communications, but then I realized I'm not passionate about this at all. And so I ended up switching into women and gender studies. And so there is an IPV influence within like some of our reading and courses as well. So that also adds on to my role as a peer educator.
So my favorite part of being a peer educator is definitely, as Tashana mentioned, this like the meaningful discussions. Whenever we facilitate workshops or events, we don't just go and just lecture. That's not what our workshops are about. They're about engaging the audience and having meaningful discussions. So I think I love having those discussions with everybody. And also it's awesome being around these like-minded individuals, especially on this leadership team, who care deeply about these issues on college campuses, and has changed my academic or career trajectory. So I am like still human biology, but IPV is underreported and underrecognized, I feel, in like especially healthcare professionals. And it's like an underaddressed issue. So I definitely think it's important to know this information, especially if you're going into like a healthcare field. And so I think no matter where, what career I go into, this will always be an important issue in every one of my fields.
Oh gosh, I've had to think about this. My favorite part of being a peer educator, I definitely think, has been like those moments in a workshop, like Tashana was saying, or in an event when someone says verbally, like, hey, I didn't know about this. Like, and you can tell they really appreciate that new information. And I definitely even relate from being in that initial training before joining and how good that felt to be like, wow, like I recognize how important this is. And now I have this information and how awesome that is. It's just a really good feeling. And I like to know that I'm involved in a group that has other people feeling that as well and getting that information. So really cool. Um, as far as my own academic and career trajectory, it has definitely changed. I feel as if every year I do more and more IPV work, which is so fulfilling. But it's definitely because of my initial joining the movement. I don't think I would have been introduced to the opportunities that I've been introduced to and to like the great people that I've been introduced to if I hadn't joined and been able to be involved in these events. I have an internship now linked to an event that we did before in the past year. And I'm minoring in social work, which I don't think I also would have done. And I'm really thinking about pursuing social work. So as a whole, I think it definitely has guided me towards a new path that I am currently very much in love with. So I'm super thankful.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what's been said. There's so many amazing parts to being a peer educator. I think, like Juniper said, that really that sense of community where you can come in before meetings and literally talk about your day or talk about anything with like the other peer educators, with women center staff. Like, I don't know, it truly feels like a place that you can make your own in a very large campus and being around people that care about the same things you care about. And also, I think beyond that, I think there's such a normalization of so many things that should not be normalized. And I think as peer educators, we truly learn like how to start that conversation that really can change those things. And also to let people know that they're not alone and to let people know that there are resources for them, like there is support for them. Like healing is not linear, but like you don't have to do it alone either. So I think really sending that message across has been really cool. And yeah, I think there's just so many great benefits to being one. I think especially for people looking to get involved and find community, especially even being online, I think the movement is like a great place to start. For changing my academic or career trajectory, I think it has in so many ways in the sense that I think I came in with an initial passion, but you learn and you grow so much throughout just like our weekly meetings and our conversations. And this is like kind of a little bit of a different route, but I think I've always been really passionate about like social impact. But something I've truly learned in the movement is that like even if things seem overwhelming and large, like intentional programming and intentional work does make a difference. And like what you're doing makes a difference. And I think that's been really cool to see, just see those tangible results.
Thank you. So our next question is about self-care. So this work, being a college student and talking about things like sexual assault, dating and domestic violence, stalking, sexual harassment, which we know are things that college students face at alarming rates. How do you do this work and still take care of yourself as a student? What type of self-care do you practice? What works for you?
So just taking time for myself, both like outside of the work and outside of like my academic parts of NC State, whether that be taking up like a new hobby, like I'm trying to teach myself how to knit, and then Netflix is always a big self-care thing. Just making sure that I have things that aren't necessarily related to my major or the work that I do with the movement where I can actually just kind of chill out and relax for a little while.
Definitely for me, it's making time every day to step away from screens, especially as we're virtual learning and then everything's practically virtual now. Taking that time just because of news articles and things that we see on TV involving IPV, social justice, is just draining, and it's a lot of trauma porn as well. So just making sure that I step away from that, maybe for a couple hours a day to read or draw. So little things like that help me.
Yeah, kind of similar to what Juniper said, this work can be extremely like emotionally draining, and also everything is virtual now, so it can be really tiring, being in front of the screen all day. So I also try to take time off by, going outside jogging, or, by simply just taking a nap, or just basically having like self time, just alone time for myself.
I'm someone who really appreciates art and painting, so that's kind of been my main thing. But when I don't find time for that, because it is a process, um, reading and just listening to music, those little things of like, waking up an extra hour early so I can get some reading in before my day. Meditate too. It's definitely little things, bits of my day that I get to do that calm me down and center me. But I'm definitely a creative, so it leans more towards drawing and painting and music.
I would definitely echo what Juniper said. I think because we care so deeply about these things, it can be heartbreaking and draining to see a lot of things that unfortunately we do have to see, even especially being on a campus and seeing certain things. So I think something that I do is like try to have like healthy empathy, if that makes sense. And which means like for me, a lot of times is like I went on like an Instagram cleanse over winter break. So really like not engaging with content or situations, even if they're powerful, if it's gonna like drain me more than I can handle at that time. So really like being intentional to like set those boundaries with myself.
Yeah, those are all really great ideas. It makes me think too of how self-care can change over time, so it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're always going to be the person that practices or paints, for self-care, or who goes for runs, but really tuning in and allowing listening to your body and allowing yourself to kind of figure out what it is that you need in that moment. I'm going to open it up if there are any other questions in the chat from participants. Feel free to drop anything in. And in the meantime, how can other students get involved with the movement or become a peer educator?
It's kind of the perfect week to talk about it, but our new member application dropped. So I can put the link in the chat. One of us can put the link in the chat. It's go.ncsu.edu/join the movement. But you can also see more information about the applications and just the movement in general by going to our Instagram and Facebook. I'll also drop those credentials in the chat as well. And we do have some required training sessions you have to attend when you apply. So there are 6 training sessions, I believe. And then you must also attend one movement workshop and write a reflection on it. And in case you just want to know more about how we facilitate workshops or any events, you're more than welcome to come to like our events. We'll be hosting them all of this semester in the future, just to see how it works and what work we do. But yeah, if anyone else has to add anything to that.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for talking with us today and sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do. Again, the movement Instagram is at @NCSU_movement. And you can find out more about becoming a peer educator by going to go.ncsu.edu/join the movement. Thank you all so much for being here today. And we will hopefully be posting these videos as well so you all can see them. And the Facebook is at NCSU, the movement. Thanks, everybody.